Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. Although MIDI is unfortunately long gone in the personal computer space, it continues to be used to this day by musicians, especially pianists. Ever since the early 1980s when MIDI came around, it's been tightly integrated into many digital pianos or keyboards. Many electric pianos will have a MIDI out port, so you can connect them to an external MIDI device. This would, of course, enable you to use the piano to control the external MIDI device and do all sorts of weird, fun things. But the reason that MIDI continues to prove so valuable to musicians is because, unlike every other audio format in the world where a set of bits is decoded into specific audio, MIDI is more like a set of instructions for your sound card. A MIDI file includes several things, that being notes to play, what instrument to play the note with, volume of the note, and attack, sustain, release. So, how quickly to start playing the note, how long to hold it, any effects to apply to the note, and how to end the note. This leads to a couple things, one being the fact that MIDIs sound different on every sound card because they are processed locally. The real value in MIDI for musicians, though, comes from the freely adjustable BPM. BPM, or beats per minute, is basically just how quickly to play a track. If you're a musician, especially a beginner, it's helpful to play along with a track if you're trying to learn that piece. So, with a MIDI, if you can't play it at concert speed and you want to learn it a little slower, and then once you get better, speed it up a little, that's very easy to do. You can slow down the MIDI and play along with it, and then speed it up as you learn how to play the song. You can do that with MP3s, however there is a noticeable loss of quality in stretching out the audio, because obviously it's mastered to play at a certain speed and you get these really weird sounds when you start stretching out audio files. So MIDIs are really fantastic. The fact that MIDIs are reproduced locally, though, leads to the aspect that I really like about them, and a lot of vintage computer enthusiasts will concede with me on this, and that is that every sound card has its own unique set of samples. Some of them sound very realistic and make you question whether or not you're even listening to a MIDI, and some, like this Sound Blaster 16 clone, sound absolutely nothing like any instrument that's ever been created by mankind. It sounds so bad, and I love it. But back to the whole piano thing. This is Alfred's group piano, the CD. Now, I don't know who Alfred is, but he seems like a pretty cool guy if he's using MIDI. So let's take a listen. This CD came with a piano book that came with the piano that I'm about to show you. But first, let's just take a look at this CD, because on it is a bunch of audio files, but also MIDIs for a beginning pianist to learn some basic songs. On the disc is audio files and general MIDI files, and there's a lot of them. Supplementary solo repertoire, let's choose track 8. Ooh. That OPL3 violin just hits different. But you get the point. If you're a musician learning to play a song, it really helps to play along with it and just to hear it. Now, a lot of digital pianos or electric pianos also have a MIDI in port, so that you could connect them to your PC sound card and hear MIDI tracks through the piano. That, of course, allows you to put on headphones and hear what you're playing directly side by side with MIDI also produced through the piano. And the piano I'm about to show you has that. But in addition, it has something that you very rarely see on pianos, and that's a 3.5-inch floppy drive. Yeah, this piano has a desktop 3.5-inch floppy drive that allows you to put in a floppy disk full of MIDIs and play them back through the piano's internal hardware. Now, we're not talking some weird proprietary format that they only made like 3,000 of and they're impossible to get nowadays. No, it just takes a regular 3.5-inch FAT32 formatted 1.4 or 720K floppy, and it'll play nearly any MIDI track, not just piano samples either. It'll play damn near anything, because this piano has 305 instruments and 9 drum sets. It also has 96 voice polyphony, which is absolutely ludicrous. That means you can play 96 notes at the same time. And that is crazy for a piano. But the piano MIDIs that we've been listening to are definitely not all that I will be trying. I'm going to be playing a variety of different tracks to see how this piano handles general MIDI, which it is full general MIDI 2 compatible. This piano is unfortunately not mine because I am poor, I live in a small room, and I don't have space or money for it. However, the owner has kindly let me borrow it for a few hours to record some MIDI tracks onto a PCM recorder. So let's go take a listen at the very interesting, unique sounds of a piano with a floppy drive. Its MIDI functionality is actually quite easy to use, all you have to do is pop a disc into the drive and press the disc button above the keyboard, which of course initializes the disc. You get a lovely floppy seek sound, and then you're met with a menu of MIDI tracks on the disc from which to select. However, another thing you can do is record a song to the disc and play it back on a different MIDI device. On this disc, I saved a song that I recorded on the piano. Let's have a listen. Now, I do not play the piano, I play the violin, and they are obviously very different instruments. However, I tried my best to press a few buttons and make it sound not awful. And it even saves what instrument you use on the piano. So the piano has a variety of different instruments, that being a library of piano sounds as well as some synth and organ sounds. And when you record a MIDI track to disc, it saves what instrument you played with and tells whatever other MIDI device you're playing it back on what MIDI device to use. Oh, here's the strings. And an unpleasant chord. Oh god, it sounded a lot better on the piano. And of course that's because every MIDI device sounds a little bit different, as I said earlier. But it's so cool that you can record your own MIDI tracks just entirely on the piano, save them to disc, and then play them back on a computer. I just find that so awesome. Let's start off our MIDI tests with the MIDI tracks from Windows 3, specifically Canyon.mid. This piano actually sounds really good. It has the best samples I've ever heard for several instruments, and I feel like nothing demonstrates that better than Dreamy.mid. piano sounds is what this piano seems to recreate best. Probably not surprising why. However, it's truly so good that you forget that you're listening to a MIDI. For comparison, here's about what you can expect from a PC soundcard. It's not particularly horrible, but it doesn't really sound all that much like an actual piano. And that's about where I'll wrap up our song tests, but not before we end with onestop.mid. Onestop.mid was introduced in XP, I believe? Yes. It was a replacement for all of the earlier Windows 3 MIDIs. And onestop.mid consolidates a lot of different song styles and playing styles into a single MIDI. And although it might not be the most melodic thing you've ever heard, it certainly is a good test of how capable your MIDI hardware is at playing a variety of samples at a variety of speeds. So let's hear it out. that's where I'll wrap up this video. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope it was entertaining to see me screw around with a piano that reads floppy disks, because it definitely was very entertaining to me to play around with it. But thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you'll join me for a future video, but for now, that's it, and I hope to see you next time.